Hello everybody. So, are you interested in getting the Celestron PowerSeeker 80EQ refractor telescope? Well, if you are, I've got some advice and tips that I would like to share with you that I've learned from others. And if you're considering getting this telescope, this video is going to be basically talking about that telescope and giving you some advice from somebody who owns this telescope and has a lot of the stuff that I'm about to talk to you about and stuff that I've tried and do myself. Okay, so obviously the first thing that you're going to want to have is a telescope. Now, my advice to you is if you plan to buy the telescope, that you check out a website called opticsplanet.com is what they're called. Everything will be, all the links and all that will be in the description below if you would want to get any of these parts that I'm planning to show you in this video. I want to let you know now that I do not make any profit or commissions or sales off of any of the products that you buy. So some of the stuff you're going to need, and I'm just going to go ahead and read from my topic here that I created on astronomyforum.net. This is a video for people on YouTube. So let's see where we are on this. I gotta go to page 2 real quick. So let's see what we got here. So here are some things. I'm going to give you a little bit of advice real quick, and this is going to be a long video, by the way, so hopefully you have some free time. If you don't, feel free to pause this video. So I want to give you some heads up that the parts that come with the telescope, the diagonal and the eyepieces and the Barlow lens. If you currently own this telescope, chances are if you haven't upgraded these parts and you threw it in the closet, you probably have done it because you either got a new telescope, a better one, or you've just lost interest in a telescope at all. So, like I said, the parts that come with it are not so good. And the best way that I can explain this to you is, let's just say that you basically bought a race car. This is the example that I like to use for it. Is, let's say you bought a race car, right? And it came with a stock car engine, and you were trying to race that in a race. Well, you're not going to get anywhere with it because the engine is holding you back. The telescope is good. Okay, it's not the best, but for the price, it's a good telescope. What's holding you back, it's going to hold you back, are the eyepieces, the diagonal, and also the Barlow lens. They are not the best quality at all, and sadly, I'm kind of disappointed in Celestron, but it is a good tube, and the actual mount and equatorial mount are really good for the price. Now, I got my Celestron PowerSeeker 80EQ for only $116 and free shipping from opticsplanet.com. What I did was I called them up, and I ended up getting a $12 discount, which it was about like $120, I think, or $124, and after the discount it was down to like $116 and free shipping. So definitely, if you plan to buy this telescope brand new, try calling opticsplanet.com and seeing if a sales representative can give you a $12 discount on it. They might not. If they don't, well, maybe look into getting it used then for about that price or less. It's a really good telescope, but again, the eyepieces, the Barlow lens, and the diagonal will be holding you back for getting the best performance out of your telescope. So don't let the parts deceive you from getting a good view of your planets. Now, I have all the parts that I personally own. I own all these parts. Now, the only optional thing is, it's optional, you really don't have to get it, is a 15mm eyepiece. That is completely optional. You don't have to get that. You really only need just 3 eyepieces. The 20mm eyepiece and a 10mm eyepiece. You really don't even need 3, to be honest. Definitely do not go lower than a 10mm eyepiece, and don't go higher than a 45mm eyepiece. Otherwise, you're just going to be wasting your money. If you want to collect eyepieces for your telescope, then that's fine, I guess. These are some really good, fair-priced eyepieces that you can get for the price, especially if you're a family and you're on a tight budget. I personally use all these myself, and I've gotten some really great views. To a lot of people, they may not be the best views, but for the price, it's really good. And chances are, if you plan to upgrade to a telescope that can use a 1/4 inch eyepiece, you can take those eyepieces and you can carry them over to your next telescope. So it's not a make it or break it if you upgrade your telescope. As long as they are 1/4 inch eyepiece, then you can still use them with your new telescope. So it's great to have those eyepieces if you plan to get a different telescope. Definitely try out the telescope, and if you become to like it, you should definitely think about getting these upgrades for your telescope. They will make a really big difference in your telescope. The next thing that I wanted to mention is yes, you can view the moon. Personally, I've done a lot of videos for my channel, and please, whatever you do, do not let my videos, if you watch them, be the make it or break it for you buying this telescope. Those videos were taken with a cell phone, and they are not the best quality. Okay, so you have to understand that what you're seeing is a cell phone recording those. The actual viewing of these planets are a lot better when you're actually looking down the barrel or looking through the eyepiece at your planet. Another thing that I want to mention is there's a big cap that comes on your telescope. It's actually a little cap, a big cap that's on the front of the tube, and it also has a small cap in the center of it. Now, I've been hurting myself with this because I've been using just I've been just taking off the small cap on the front of the cap. So with that, by doing that, I've been blocking my field of view. And also what I've been doing is I've been making less light be able to come in. Now, this telescope is recommended for kind of a dark area. So if you can find like a nice dark area, if you live in a city, you might have a lot of problems, especially if there's a lot of lights. You can probably have some problems with that. I'm not an expert at this. I'm just sharing you my experiences with using this telescope. Is that you definitely want to have a nice dark spot someplace on the side of your house if there's not a lot of lights around. What else? So you can get good views of the moon, surface views. You know what I mean? You can see some of the details on the craters of the moon. The quality looks better when you look at it yourself, especially if you have these parts. Now, I'm not trying to sell you nothing. Feel free to try it out yourself. Use the stock parts. I guarantee you're gonna see a big up when you get the parts. Now, like I said, I don't make any money off of selling any of these. I'm giving you my personal advice from somebody who actually owns a lot of these parts for this telescope. Now, the 10mm eyepiece is a $10 eyepiece, and believe it or not, that 10mm eyepiece is really good. Now, the downer about this is you have to find it on eBay. So hopefully you have an eBay account, because you'll have to buy it from a Chinese seller. Now, I was a little skeptical about it, but when I looked at it, it was pretty good. I've done some good videos, or I've seen some good views for myself, from my own eyes. I've actually seen some good views of Jupiter. I mean, just with the 2x Barlow lens, which I was using. Now, the 3x Barlow lens that comes with your telescope is useless, and the 4mm eyepiece, that eyepiece is completely useless. I mean, if you got some really good eyes and you can squint your eye into that little bitty hole the size of a rice grain, you got some kudos for me, buddy. Let me tell you, the 20mm eyepiece is probably going to be the only usable eyepiece that comes with that telescope, and you're really not even going to get the best views, but it'll be doable for for the moon. Now, one of these days, I'm gonna try to do a video of me using the stock diagonal with a stock 20 millimeter eyepiece to kind of give you guys a kind of an ideal of what you're going to be seeing. You might not even notice a difference at all from what you're seeing, which really is going to be hard to do because it's going to be dark out, and those are kind of going to be a problem in my whatever I use to record the video with, whether it be my phone or my camcorder or whatever. I got a Next Image 5 coming in the mail, so maybe I can use my Next Image 5 to record video with the diagonal. I don't really know. But with the stock diagonal and the new diagonal, I don't really know what I'm going to do yet. But definitely subscribe to this YouTube channel or check out some of my videos on my channel if you want to see if that video has been released or not. But I'm definitely planning on doing that in the near future, if it's not already up now. What else is there that I wanted to say? So learning how to use a telescope is going to be a big curve for you. If you're new to telescopes, you've never used an equatorial mounted telescope before, chances are that could be potentially an issue for you. And it doesn't matter whether you get this telescope or any other telescope that has an EQ in it. If the telescope says EQ, that means equatorial, and it's basically a German equatorial mount. And that is going to be a problem probably for you to learn how to use. There's a guy named David Fuller, I believe his name is. So if you search YouTube for how to align an EQ mount or something like that on Google or on YouTube or Google, you'll probably find David Fuller's video. Now, even though I watched his video, I was still confused on what he was talking about. So you might actually watch his video and you still might be confused about how to set up the equatorial mount correctly. But once you do get it set up correctly, you definitely want to leave it in the position that it's in. I don't even know if I want to give you any advice at all, but I will share with you some tips that I learned from the guy that I met at my local astronomy club. My advice to you is, first, before I say anything, is check the internet for a star party near you. And see if there's an astronomy club that might be around you that you can reach out to somebody at the astronomy club and see if they can maybe assist you with helping you set up your telescope correctly. Now, as far as what I learned with how to set up the Celestron PowerSeeker 80EQ is that you're going to want to there's actually a little wing nutter thing underneath the telescope between the tripod legs that unscrews. What you're going to want to do with that is you're going to want to unscrew that so that's kind of loose, okay? And this is probably going to be some of the worst advice ever given to anybody, but you'll want to make sure that the tube is facing north, okay? So take it outside, face the telescope tube north, and make sure that the mount trying to think of what I'm thinking of. I'll show a picture about right here of how you want to face it. So take this picture the way you see it, and this is facing north, by the way. So the picture you're seeing is of my telescope facing the north sky. Now, if you have a Celestron PowerSeeker 80EQ, then you'll want to make sure that your telescope is facing this direction in the north sky. Now, there is there's two wing nut screws that are on the telescope. One is on the back side, I think, and the other one is either on the left or right side. And now I don't know the correct words for these, and this is why it's bad advice, is because I don't even know the correct terms for these. But one of them will allow your telescope, if you unloosen it a little bit, so pretty much so it's a little bit loose so that the screw's almost falling out. It will allow your telescope tube to rotate 360 degrees, right? So it'll let your telescope spin all the way around. Now, before you do that, you'll obviously want to do, like I said, is make sure that the telescope is facing the way that I have it faced in that picture I showed you in this video. Is make sure that your telescope is facing that way, and the tube is facing that way, and that will be pretty much your telescope being polar aligned. I believe it should be facing Polaris, hopefully. The other thing that you want to do is you're going to want to make sure that you set the latitude for your location. So go on to Google and search latitude and then your location. So if you're in Dallas, Texas, you would type in latitude for Dallas, Texas, and it'll say something like, whatever it is. For mine, when I put in Fort Myers, Florida, my latitude was 26. So on the side of your telescope, there's a black thing with numbers on it, and then on the back there is a knob. There's a little wrench thing that you turn, and it will tilt your telescope. It will slowly tilt your telescope either up or up. It'll either tilt it up and bring it all the way back. You'll want to set that to that latitude. That's your latitude. I'll show a picture right here. So this here is the latitude. This is what you're going to set for your latitude. You're going to want to find your latitude on Google. Just type in your location that you're in right now. And you'll want to change this if you plan to move to a different state or something, or a different part of the country. You'll want to make sure you change that and make sure it's correct. Try to get as close to that as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be kind of close. Even if it's off by a couple of numbers, it's still fine. So you're gonna want to set that as well to your latitude. And as soon as you have that set, now like I said, you're gonna want to make sure that the little thing underneath your telescope where your tripod legs is tightened. Once you have the telescope facing north and you have your latitude set, you're gonna want to tighten the bottom thing underneath your tripod legs and make sure it's very, very tight. And once you do that, hopefully your counterweight is underneath your tube, or pretty much close to underneath your tube if it's pretty much set up correctly. And then once you have that set up, man, I mean, you're pretty much good. You should be pretty much good to use your telescope. The only thing that you're going to want to do is make sure that when you set up your telescope every night, that your telescope is always facing north. So, and I try not to get this confused because I'm going to try to make this as very non-confusing as possible. Your mount is going to face north, and your counterweight is going to face north. It's never going to be south, or is it going to be any direction other than north. So you're going to want to make sure that when you turn your telescope tube and you want to face it south because the planets are maybe south in the south sky, you're going to want to unloosen that screw that allows your telescope to rotate 360, so the tube will be able to spin all the way around. And once you've got it to the point of the sky that you want it at, you're going to want to tighten that screw up, and then you're going to want to use one of the slow tension things. So the back one, there's a slow crank knob towards the back of the tube, towards where your diagonal and your eyepiece are. You don't want to use that one. You just want to use the slow turning wrench, the slow turning knob on the side of your telescope. So depending on which side you have the slow crank on, whether it's on the right or the left hand side, because you can put the little slow knob either on the left or right, whichever way you prefer to do it. Now, the only thing that you're going to be moving with the Celestron 80EQ when you're wanting to view planets that are in the south sky or the north sky or the east or the west is you're going to be just turning your tube scope around. So only your tube is going to move. The rest of the telescope is going to stay in the direction that it is supposed to be in, which when you set it up outside, the counterweight for your telescope should be facing north when you first take it outside. Now it's going to move when you tilt the telescope to its other axis or to the side and stuff. It'll move in a direction, but the weight should not be facing the front of the tube. So that's my advice to you: is if your counterweight is facing your tube, if your counterweight is if your tube is facing south and your counterweight is also facing south, then you definitely have your telescope set up wrong, because the counterweight should be facing north, and like I showed in that first picture, your EQ mount part should be facing where the big silver cog is. That should be facing north, and the telescope tube will be facing the direction that you wanted to face it. So the only thing, I want to make this clear, is so you understand this, is the only thing that's going to be moving on your telescope is a tube. Now, again, the counterweight will point, either straight like this, or it will face straight down, kind of like at an angle like that. So it'll either kind of, depending on how you have your telescope tilted. I mean, you can tilt the telescope so it'll be like this, and you can kind of tilt it so that it's kind of at an angle and stuff. But you're definitely not going to want to make your tube or your counterweight be facing any other direction than north. So it can face east and stuff. I mean, it can rotate, but it needs to be facing. And I made this kind of complicated for you, but you can see the pictures of the tube. It'll be a little bit of a learning curve, but once you get the hang of it, you should be fine. Like I said, your first couple of nights, if you have clear skies, which I wish you the best of clear skies, your first couple of nights are going to be a little bit of a learning curve. So I know it's going to be a little bit of an excitement to be able to go out there for the first night and be able to see planets you may or may not get to see planets, because you're going to be a little bit excited to take your telescope out and start viewing planets. But definitely after a while, if you stick with it, you will be able to see planets like Mars and Jupiter and Saturn and Arcturus, and you might, if you're lucky and you live in a dark sky area, like someplace in the Serengeti almost, or you go out to a dark park, or the desert or something like that, someplace where there's not a lot of lights, you might even be able to see the Milky Way with a telescope. Now, the only planets that I've gotten to see so far with my telescope is really just Jupiter, Saturn, Arcturus. Mars, I'm going to be honest with you, Mars is really, right now at the time of this video, it's been too bright to see anything, so you might consider checking the link for all these parts that I gave you. It's the Agena Astro site, or Astrogena. You're going to definitely want to check that site for the filters, and I will throw a link in the description for a link to filters, and you can read them, the recommended filters to get for certain planets. They show which ones they recommend. Now, personally, I have not tested these filters to be able to give you proof that they work or not. I'm planning to get them, but currently at the time of this video, they were all out of stock, so I wasn't able to pick any of them up. But supposedly they will help you out with getting cutting down the glare. So hopefully, if you get a filter that will work with Mars, you will cut down on glare, and you might be able to pick out a little bit of detail with that planet. But Mars is pretty bright right now for July 3rd, 2016. It's been very, very bright this for the last 2 months now. I haven't been able to see any details at all with Mars at all, even with the Barlow lens and the eyepieces. It's just too bright. So you should consider getting definitely getting a filter or some filters for planets that are bright. But I currently don't have any. And whatever you do not look at the sun with the telescope without a filter on it. Whatever you do, don't do that, because if you do, you're going to damage your telescope and you could potentially hurt yourself and worse. Okay, so if you're wanting to look at the sun, you're definitely going to want to get a filter, for a solar filter. Now, there's a website called Thousand Oaks Optics, I believe it is, or Thousand Oak Optics. It'll be in the description below. You're definitely going to want to get a full aperture glass number, or glass +2, and I'll put in the part number that you're going to want to get for the Celestron 80EQ. It's recommended for this telescope. The part number is 3750, so you can actually search for that on their website under the full aperture glass +2 filters. That's the one you're going to want to get. It'll run you about $69. At the time of this video, it was like $69, and it was like $10 shipping. I don't own it, so I can't tell you if it's any good, but I will tell you with a warning that you should definitely check it with a light bulb, like a 50 to a 100 watt light bulb, I think it is. I'm not 100% sure. Hover it over a light bulb and check it every time you plan to use it for scratches or damages to it, because you're going to want to make sure that you don't use it if it is damaged. I don't believe they offer refunds, so if you damage it by your own mistakes, they're not going to refund you. So take that advice cautiously. So take good care of your solar filter along with your eyepieces as well, and all that stuff. Now, if you live in an area that has a lot of mildew, or not a mildew, I always get mildew mixed up. A lot of dew, morning dew, or dust, you're definitely going to want to pick up a either a lens pens cleaner, and don't get the Chinese ones. Make sure you go to lenspen.com to get a lens pen. I would kind of cautious you on the lens pens part, because you can go from having a little bit of particles to having thousands of little dust particles everywhere. This chamois, I have one, and I started out with 2 particles, and now I have like thousands of them all over my eyepieces. And it's kind of a real pain to get them off. If you're planning to clean your eyepieces, what they recommended, and what the guy local recommended to me to do is to just blow on it. Just kind of use, like, not I don't mean blow on it. Don't blow on it. Just just go, kind of like breathe on it a little bit, like with your throat, kind of like blow fog on it with your throat. Just go. Make sure you don't get saliva on it as best as you can. Now, that's personally what my local astronomy club member said to do, but you can use rubbing alcohol. You got to get the 91% rubbing alcohol, and you're going to want to get water. So distilled water is what you're going to want to get, and you're going to want to mix them 50-50. So get yourself a little spray bottle, one of these little spray bottles that you can get from like the little travel size ones. Clean it out really good. Mix about 1 ounce of water and 1 ounce of 91% alcohol. And I don't mean drinking alcohol. I mean alcohol you put on your cuts. It's a red and white bottle here in the U.S. I think it is. Is it Loberline? I can't pronounce the name of it, but get yourself some 91% alcohol. Not your drinking alcohol, by the way. You guys, don't you do that. But get yourself some of that and mix 1 ounce of that, or 1 ounce of that, and then 1 ounce of water. 1 ounce of alcohol, 1 ounce of water, and then pour it into a small spray bottle. Probably about like that big of a spray bottle. I think they're about like that big. Maybe about like that big. And should be good on that. So get yourself a little camera lens brush, whatever, anything that will work with a camera. So if you want a cleaner that will work with a camera, find a brush online that they sell for, or maybe go to Walmart or your local camera store and find like a brush that they recommend cleaning camera lenses for, because chances are if it works for a camera lens, then it'll work really good for a telescope eyepiece as well as the tube eyepiece. You never should have to worry about the inner eyepiece or the inner tube. chances are they probably will never get dirty. It's just the outer tube and the eyepieces that will get dirty. I want to say one other thing. This has been a half an hour video. Congratulations if you watched this long. I hope this has been pretty helpful to you. These eyepieces, the Superview eyepieces, are really good. They're pretty wide. They're pretty wide lenses, so you shouldn't have to squint too much into them. They've got a pretty big lens on them, and they got a rest piece for your eye, so you won't have to worry about pressing down on it. Now the other eyepiece from eBay, it's a little bit smaller. It's probably about, if you look at my pinky nail, that's how big the lens is on that $10 eyepiece. So it's probably about that size. So you're gonna have to, squint to see through it. But definitely these are useful to help you with viewing planets. Now I have to say one thing before I end this video, is I haven't had any luck yet seeing any other planets other than Jupiter, and I can see Mars, but no details on Mars. It's just basically a bright white ball is what it is for me. And I've seen Saturn, and I've seen Arcturus, and one morning I tried to go out and I tried to look at Neptune, because it was about, I think, about 6 o'clock in the morning. Now it is summer, so I haven't gotten to the time to be able to see Venus or any of these other planets that might come into rotation. So just take in mind that just because I haven't seen them yet, it's because it's in a time of year where these planets are not within the rotation of being able to be seen. So I haven't seen Mercury, I haven't seen Uranus, I haven't seen Venus, and I haven't seen a couple other ones. I haven't seen much of any clusters either. I haven't seen satellites either. I haven't seen airplanes, but I haven't been trying to because they haven't been in the view. You got a real good view of the moon on a full moon and a clear sky on a full moon. It'll definitely be amazing. I hope that the next super moon we have, I get a really good view and the weather is good. The next super moon, I think, or something's supposed to happen in February or January of 2017. So I'm looking forward to that with my telescope. But I hope this video has helped you out. And if it has, feel free to hit the like button. If you have any questions for me, you can leave them in the comments below, and I'll do my best to my knowledge to answer them if I can. And feel free to subscribe to this YouTube channel if you want to see more random videos. I do a bunch of random stuff. I might upload videos of the moon or some of the planets, or rants, product reviews, just a bunch of random stuff. Yeah, so feel free to subscribe if you guys want, and I hope that you enjoyed this video, and clear skies.